Hi everyone. Let's talk about angles for a bit. An angle is the union of two rays that share a common endpoint. So in this figure below we have two rays, which I'll give them some names. We'll say ray AB and ray AC. And they share a common endpoint, which is point A. The rays that form the angle are called the sides. The common endpoint is called the vertex. A good question is, why can't you just say an angle is the union of two rays? Well, if that's the case, then this would be an angle. I mean, they don't even have to have anything in common. So an angle is the union of two rays that share a common endpoint. To identify angles, what we do is we need 3 points to identify the angle. Now, in this case, if you have an angle with there's only one angle in question, very often you can say this is angle B, because there really is no other choice. When there are multiple possible angles, you want to be more specific, however. And for that, you use generally 3 points. For example, when you name the angle, you want to have the vertex as the middle point. So this angle might be angle ABC. ABC, B being the vertex in the middle. But you could also call this angle CBA. Again, the vertex is in the middle. Note that in Euclidean geometry, in the plane geometry, you don't talk about the direction of the angles. The angle is just the thing, it's the object. So in that case, you could say that this angle is either angle CBA or angle ABC. They mean one and the same. Now, angles also have characteristics, and the principal characteristic is a measure. A measure is a unique number that's assigned to the angle that's between 180 and 0 and 180 degrees. As you see, we've got an angle here. I'm going to give this a name. We'll say this is angle BGD. Line the vertex up with the center of the protractor. Line the one ray of the angle with the horizontal line between 0 and 180 degrees. And we see the ray GD lines up with this measure right here. For this angle, BGD, it is 120 degrees. Now, here's the notation. First of all, this fact that this angle has a measure associated with it is called the protractor postulate. And a postulate is some statement that we're not going to have to prove is true. We're just going to assume it's a true statement. It's an assumption. So the protractor postulate states that every angle has a unique measure between 0 and 180 degrees assigned to it. And so you would say if this measure is 120 degrees, you would say that the measure of angle BGD equals 120 degrees. Or some books will use this notation. They'll say the measure, with a little arc between it, of BGD equals 120 degrees. What you don't say is that angle BGD equals 120 degrees. So that is something that is not allowed in geometry, because the angle is the thing. The angle is just the rays and the points. The angle doesn't equal anything. Equaling is a measure, is a number. Somebody can equal something else if they're numbers. Okay, so for this, the measure, which is a number, the measure of the angle equals 120 degrees. Now, you can also identify angles. You can classify them, and geometry loves to do classifications. You can identify angles by their measures. An acute angle, and these are sort of the common 5 classifications. An acute angle, which my students used to remember, they'd say that's a cute little angle. Anyways, an acute angle is an angle with a measure between 0 and 90 degrees. Now, this is between means that it cannot be equal 0 and it cannot be equal to 90. So that means the measure of this angle, which I'll call angle A, is, so 0 is between, so I mean rather measure of angle A is between 0 and 90 degrees, but not equal to either one. So it's not equal to 0, it's not equal to 90. A right angle, which is often denoted with the little box like that, a right angle is an angle with a measure that's equal to 90 degrees. So a right angle is an angle that has a measure of 90 degrees. An obtuse angle is an angle with a measure between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. So again, we'll call this angle B. 90 degrees is less than the measure of angle B, which is less than 180 degrees. An angle with a measure of 180 degrees is called a straight angle. We really haven't talked about straight angles much yet. A straight angle is an angle in which the two rays that form the angle are called opposite rays. So we'll say, okay, DEF, DE or ED rather, and EF are opposite rays, which means if you put them together, if you take the union of the opposite rays, they form a line. Lastly, a reflex angle. So a reflex angle, well, when we talk about angles, you can talk about, the protractor postulate says there is a measure, every angle has a measure associated with it between 0 and 180 degrees. So for this angle down here, I'll call this angle G. You can say, well, the measure associated with angle G is this right here. But you could as well talk about the part of angle G, sort of instead of the interior, I guess you'd call it. You can talk about angle G is sweeping out this little arc instead. Okay? Okay, that is associated with this angle. So how do you distinguish between the interior portion and this, what I call exterior portion? Well, the exterior portion, it doesn't need to be exterior, it's just a measure, and it's a measure between 0 and 360 degrees. If you're speaking about this portion of the angle, then you'd call it a reflex angle. So that this angle, which is has a measure between between 180 and 360 degrees, is a reflex angle. So there's the classifications of the angles. Finally, let's play a little game. So can you find or can you name? All right. So it's like the Where's Waldo of geometry. Where are these things? Where are these objects? Where is an acute angle? Okay, so obviously there are various possible answers, and we'll have to trust that these measures are what they appear to be. So one acute angle would be angle LOK, because its measure is between 0 and 90 degrees. You could also say angle KOJ, and there are others. A right angle, okay, denoted by the box, so we see that. So angle NOJ is a right angle. And I'm going to skip down because it looks to me like angle NOL is a straight angle. And that's important because if angle NOL is a straight angle, that says the measure of angle NOL equals 180 degrees. And there's something called angle addition, which we'll talk about soon, which would say that I can break up angles. The measure of angle NOL equals the measure of angle NOJ, which we said was a right angle, plus the measure of angle JOL. Well, if this is 180 and this is 90, that says a measure of angle JOL. In other words, this angle right there also would be 90 degrees. So angle JOL is also a right angle. An obtuse angle would be angle NOK. Can we find others? Yeah, how about angle JOM? So NOK being this portion of the angle. Angle LOM, this portion of the angle, would also be obtuse. We've already identified the straight angle. And lastly, the reflex angle. Okay, so the reflex angle I have to identify with some marks. And I'm going to get another color going here. I'll do it in pink. So I'm going to say that a reflex angle would be, here you go, here's one, angle JOM. And here's where you have to identify. Angle JOM could be this portion of the angle. And that would just be an obtuse angle. But what I want to talk about for the reflex angle is I want to talk about this portion right here. So angle JOM, at least this portion of angle JOM, since it's greater than 180 degrees, between 180 and 360, that portion of JOM would be a reflex angle.